Good day, everyone. I am Embelino Khem, a BS Criminology student from Negros Oriental State University, College of Criminal Justice Education. So for today's video, I will going to discuss about institutional corrections. But before that, let's define first what is correction. So, correction is a concept which describes both a wide range of diversified or programs, agencies, and institutions. So from the word diversified, it refers to a penal system's implementation of segregation. So, correction also is a branch of the criminal justice system concerned with the custody, suspension, and rehabilitation of criminal offenders. So, correction is the branch of the administration of CGS charged with the responsibility for the concern of with the custody, suspension, and rehabilitation of criminal offenders. So, correctional administration also is a study of practice of systematic management of correction. It is also defined as the study of jail or prison management and administration, as well as rehabilitation and reformation of criminals. So, penology. The study of punishment for crime or of criminal offenders. It includes the study of control and prevention of crime through punishment of criminal offenders. So, penology is different from correction. It includes the study of control and prevention of crime through punishment of criminal offender. So when we say punishment, it is a redress that the state takes against the offending member of the society that usually involve pain and suffering. So, etymology of the word penology. The term is derived from the Greek word poen as well as Latin word pena, which means pain or suffering. So, that's what I say last. It is a connected with the penology involved with pain and suffering. So, next is penology is also otherwise known as penal science. So it is actually a division of criminology that deals with prison management and the treatment of offenders and concerned itself with the philosophy and practice of society in its effort to repress criminal activities. So, penal management refers to the manner or practice of managing or controlling places of confinement as in jails or prisons. So, the penal management is responsible for implementing policies for day-to-day planning as in jails or prison. So, correction and the criminal justice system. So, the criminal justice system is the machinery of any government in the control and prevention of crimes and criminality. It's composed of the pillars of justice such as the first is the law enforcement pillar, second, the prosecution pillar, third, the court pillar, and fourth, the correction pillar, and the last is the community pillar. So, the criminal justice system is the machinery. And the word machinery, it is a device or tools that use of governments enforces the rules of conduct. Rules of conduct, it is a written laws or the laws that make for protect life and property and maintain peace and order. So, the purpose of CGS is to process those who have been accused of criminal activities. So, in the law enforcement pillar, if there's a crime happened, the first pillar is the law enforcement. They are the one who apprehend to those person that who make a crime or suspect. So, and the second is the prosecution pillar. So the prosecution pillar, who they are the one who gather necessary evidence with the help of the law enforcement. So, and the third is the court pillar. So court pillar is known as the center of a core of the CGS of the Philippines. If the person is arrested, the prosecution stage by the prosecution stage who are give who are the prosecution stage will see if the person who are probable cause, so he make a file to the court. So the court will be the one who finalize if the person is innocent or guilty. He is the one who determine if the person is innocent or guilt. So correction pillar. So the correction pillar is the weakest pillar. Because he is the one who failed, because the person, if he go to society, she can make a crime again. So the community pillar, the last pillar, so if the person pay his sins, he can go to the community pillar. So the informal pillar in the CGS of the Philippines, it is a community pillar. So it also have the place in the criminal comes from where he returned. That's the community pillar. So historical perspective on corrections, important dates and events in the history of correction. So 13th century, securing sanctuary. So it is a criminals avoid punishments, it also claim refuge to charge, and for 40 days, at the end of which time he has complied to leave the real a road or path assigned to him. And then 1468, England, torture as a form of punishment become prevalent. So this is the year that they are privileged to make a punishment. That's what we called torture. So in the 16th century, transportation of criminals in England was authorized at the end of 16th century. So it's a prevalent, rationally or widely accepted practice. So in 16th century, England's exportations of criminals, Russian and European countries, they are following the system of the 1835 abandoned. So in the 17th to late 80s, death penalty become prevalent as form of punishment. So this century, they are prevalent to as form of their penalty is the punishment that what's we call death penalty. So reasons why death penalty become the usual punishment during this period, and therefore, so number one, death allows become a protection for the English people. It is because the people during this period did not totally believe yet in the ability of a strong police force to combat criminals. So before, they are not like totally believe in the ability of they are not totally believe the ability of the police that they can make to say to get the criminals. So next is people lack confidence in the transportation of criminals. Gaols and galleys become center of corruption and effective instrument of punishment. So this time the people, they have no trust with the transportations of criminals like gaols and galleys. They are the centers of the corruptions. The instrument are not effective sa the instrument are not effective in the punishment. So gaols or jails, pretrial detention facilities operated by English sheriff. So it is an alternative spelling of jail. So either accused persons authority for a corrections institution used to detain persons who are in the lawful custody of the government. So also ang galleys, a long, low, narrow, single-stick ships propelled by sails, usually rowed by and hawks. Discreet transport, former warships used to house prisoners in the 18th century. These were abandoned warships converted into prisons. It means of revealing congregations of prisoners. So in a hawks, an old ship stripped of fitting and permanently moored, especially for use of a storage of formerly as a prison. So number 3 is doctrine of crowd intimidations appeared or seemed to be a logical form of threat in order to deter or prevent the people from violating the law. So the doctrine of crowd, it is preventing the people from who are violating the law. Next is the assumption was that the ruling class is there to protect property rights and maintain public peace and order. The system of maintaining public order had little consideration or did not recognize the social and economic conditions of lower working class. So the ruling class is they are tasked to protect the property rights of the persons so that the public so that they can maintain public peace and order. So the lawmakers use that penalty to cover property loss or damage without further completing the value life of other people. So the primary schools of penology. The first one is the classical school. It maintains the doctrine of psychological Hinduism or free will. So this classical school is the people have free will in making decisions and that punishment can be deterrent for crime. So as long as the punishment is proportional fits the crime and it's carried out properly. So next is the neoclassical school. It maintained that while the classical doctrine is correct in general, it should be modified in certain details. So in wide-ranging school of ideas from which modern economic they involve. Neoclassical thought in typically linked to political thought is typically linked to politically conservative crime control policies. They are the crime control policies, the neoclassical school. So next is the positivist Italian school. The school that denied individual responsibility and reflected non-punitive reactions to crime and criminality. So founded by Cesare Lombroso and led by the others. There are two persons who are with Cesare Lombroso. So the first school, it is also the first school that tried to identify or definitive explanations for crime quotients via the scientific method. It has attempted to find scientific objectivity for the measurement and quantification of criminal behavior of the person. So, let's go to the brief history of corrections in the world setting. The early codes and the prehistoric times, there were no written laws to regulate human conduct. However, men still found ways to avenge themselves from harm and injury caused by others. So, why back then the they have no laws before? They are only they have only avenged themselves from harm and injury caused by others. Is they designed their own system of justice according to what they believe was right and fair, based on their way of life, beliefs, and the norms of their times. So not like in today's generation, we have rules and regulations, and we have laws that mean that we can use against those persons. So, Code of Hammurabi. The Code of Hammurabi is believed to be the earliest written code of punishment, and Hammurabi, the king of Babylon, during the 18th century BC, is recognized as the first codifier of laws. So, the Code of Hammurabi, this is the first laws that implemented during their days. During the 18th century. So, number 2 is the Hittites. The Hittites existed about 2 centuries after the reign of Hammurabi, and they eventually conquered Babylon. So, this Hittites exists with the 2 centuries before the Hammurabi existed also. And they eventually also conquered Babylon. The Hittites laws is characterized as brutal, just like the Code of Hammurabi, because they use punishment for many offenses. Like if they have a person who got a crime, they punish with that punishment. Next is the Deuteronomy or the Mosaic Code. So, it is the 5th book in the Bible, and it contains the basis of Jewish laws. It is believed that it was made by Moses. These laws were in the form of a covenant between God and the people of Israel, given to Moses in the mountains. So, the Deuteronomy, we can see it in the books. They contains with the basis of like laws, and someone says that or believe that this Deuteronomy is made by Moses. The Code of Draco. The Code of Draco is considered to be the first written law of the Greek civilization. So, the Code of Draco, we can say this is the first written law of the Greek civilization that this is the lawgiver who is considered the first legislator of Athens in the 7th century. So, this Code of Draco is known as having several penalties. The Code of Solon. Solon, also an Athenian, was appointed in an archon and was given legislative powers. So the archon, it is a jail or prison. Archon, that is the place. It is a place that the person who committed the crime put there. So they are the they are connected with the Code of Solon that make laws that provide just punishment. So, Rome's 12 tablets. Roman law began with the 12 tablets, which were written in the middle of the 6th century BC by the Decemvirs. So, it is which the Rome's was written in the middle of the 6th century BC. So, it is tables of Rome. It become the foundations of the laws in Rome. This is the laws in Rome that they use for those person who committed a crime. So, the number 6 is the Lex Salica. The Lex Salica refers to the legal customs of the ancient Germanic tribes which invaded and defeated the Roman Empire in the Middle Age. So, the Lex Salica, it is a refer to the legal customs, and it is a codified the Lex Salica. They set out a wrongdoings called botes, scheduled for monetary compensations. Wrongdoings called botes. So the Lex Salica, they have a wrongdoings that called botes there. So they are the legal customs of the ancient Germanic. Next is the laws of Islam. So the laws of Islam can be found in the Quran, the holy book of the Muslim religion. These laws are also believed to be divine origin. It's believed that they were given by Allah to the Prophet Muhammad. So the laws of Islam is found in Quran. This is the laws of Islam also is believed to be a divine origin. And the divine origin, it is created by God. It is the king who rules over the state is agents of God on earth. So the king derives his authority from God, and for all the actions he is responsible to God alone. And next is the Bloody Code. So, the Bloody Code refers to the system of laws, punishments of England between 1688 and 1815. So, it is a name given given to the English legal systems from the late 7th century. And it is legal system from the late 7th century to the early century. So it was known as the Bloody Code because of the huge numbers of crimes for which the death penalty could be imposed in the Bloody Code. So, earliest prisons. In the ancient times, imprisonment was not an actual punishment. And offenders who was locked away while waiting for the actual punishment to be imposed by the kings or by whoever was authorized to impose the punishment. So, later on, imprisonment become a form of punishment for lesser offenses, or those offenses that were not punishable by that are corporal punishment. So, the earliest prison opened in is the first state prisons in England was the Millbank prison. So it was established in 1816 with a capacity for just under 1,000 inmates there. So I Mamertine Prison. Mamertine Prison. An underground prison was constructed as early as 640 BC by Roman king Ancus Martius in Rome. So according to legend, the apostles Peter and Paul were also imprisoned in the Mamertine prison. Although there is no real evidence for this. So from this prison is that they started their journey to martyrdom, Peter towards the Circus of Nero. So there the Vatican, and Paul towards the Aquae Salvia. So next is Listenche, the first ever public prison in Europe, Florence, Italy, which was constructed in 1297. So what does the statue mean? So it is a characteristic repugnant quality, or other words from strange synonyms and antonyms. Example kanang sentence learn, like example ang sentences. So Hospital of Saint Michael, or Hospice of San Michael. So this first circular prison, or prison with individual cells for prisoners in Rome, built in 704. It was built on delicate boys under the age of 20 and considered one of the first institutions to house juvenile offenders. So Saint Michael is a greatest hospital workforce. So this provide quality patient care under great research. Development of prison in England. So the origins of jails and be tracked back to the England during the time of King Henry II in 1166. He mandated that there must be a jail in every country shire headed by its sheriff. During the said period, and earlier jails were called gaols. So what did in my question in my mind, that what did prisons began in developing? So the modern prisons developed in the late 18th century, and in part of these reactions to the conditions of the local jails, or jails of the time. So there are the evolutions of the development of prisons in England. So next is Newgate Prison. Newgate Prison is built in 1188, also by Henry II by 1783. It had become so London's prisons. Gallows were also installed outside but near the prisons for public execution of convicted offenders. The prison was operational until it was closed in 1932 and demolished in 1944. So a Newgate prison is closed in 1932 and demolished in 1904. So Newgate Prison was a prison at the corner of Newgate Street, so an old Bailey Street just inside the City of London, England, originally at the site of Newgate, a gate in the Roman London Wall. So this, in my mind, I think that is although Newgate Prison has long gone, the Newgate executions we still exist and is housed in the Church of Saint Sepulchre. So, Newgate also prison known as for a holding place of the heretics, traitors, and rebellious subjects brought of the London for trial. Next is Wymondham Prison. England first planetary constructed in 1875. So it opened on 1785 for men and women. These more human prisons were built in other parts of the country and America. Innovations include each prisoners. So this was closed in 1825, I guess, and prisoners circulated to the rebuilt country Gaol and Norwich Castle. So Bridewells. It houses street beggars, vagrant, pretty, thieves, and prostitutes in the streets of London and England, them in hard labor and punishment. 1576, the English Parliament passed legislation requiring every country to build a workhouse. So, a bridewell is the name. A bridewell came from the nearby Holy Wall. Nearby Holy Well of Saint Bridge Church, and the church name is from Saint Brigid of Kildare, which is sometimes written as a bride. So, a bridewell system is built initially as a royal residence in 1523. Bridewell Palace was given to the City of London to serve as the foundations for a system houses of correction known as bridewells. So, important personalities of development of prisons in England. So, John Howard in 1773 was appointed sheriff in Bedfordshire, local Gaol, in England. His experience as sheriff exposed him to the terrible conditions of jails in England during his time. So, John Howard, known for John Winston Howard, OMAC. He is born on July 26, 1939. She is also an Australian former politician who served as 25 Prime Minister of Australia from 1996 to 2007. So John Howard, though for corrections, is in 18th century English philanthropist who made significant contribution in prisons reform. Despite personal tragedy and an oppositional social climate, he began an early promote human treatment for prisoners. I know that he is a philosopher also. He has also done with the society. He promote and support healthy and safe communities by mobilizing partners and engaging families and individuals while addressing the social conditions that give rise to crime. So, Penitentiary Act of 1779. These reforms were secure and sanitary structures, jail inspections, eliminate of fees, emphasis of reforming prisoners. So, this is the four Penitentiary Act of 1779. Next is Jeremy Bentham. Jeremy Bentham was an English philosopher and social reformer who is known for the principle of utilitarianism. He applied his principle when he made the prison design he proposed to build in England in 1787. So, the theory of Jeremy Bentham was a philosopher, economist, legal reformer, and the founder of modern utilitarianism, an ethical theory holding the actions of morally right if they tend to promote happiness or pleasure, and morally wrong if they tend to promote unhappiness or pain among all those affected by them. So Jeremy Bentham also is he recognized the fundamental role of pain and pleasure in human life. So, next is Alexander Macanocci. Alexander Macanocci is a captain. He is a retired naval officer who was appointed superintendent for Norfolk Island in 1840, an English penal colony which is a part of Australia. He was responsible for the establishment of the mark system. So, later on, we discuss about the mark system. So, before that, we only focus about Alexander Macanocci. So, Alexander Macanocci, the originator of the mark system, is a major figure in the history of penal disciplines and best known for his attempt to implement it at the Norfolk Island Penal Station from 1840 to 1844, I guess. So he contributed the mark system's penal method developed about 1840 by Alexander Macanocci at the English penal colony of the Norfolk Island. So located na siya sa it is located at the Norfolk, it is located at the East Australia, So next is Sir Walter Crofton. So, Sir Walter Crofton was the director of the Irish prison system who used Macanocci's mark system as template for his own system called the Irish system in the 1850s. So, the contribution of Sir Walter Crofton in the penal system has been attributed as the forerunner of modern day indeterminate sentencing and parole. So, Sir Walter Crofton, following his appointment as director of the Irish convict prisons in 1854, introduced what has become known as the Irish system and the governments of convict prisons in Ireland and the management of the convict serving penal servitude sentences. So next is the transportations as punishment England. So, in 1597, England passed a law authorizing transportations of offenders from England to other newly discovered lands or English colonies, including America, where most of them were transport. So, it is a transportation it is a transportation as was I mean is transportation was often a punishment given to people found guilty of theft. So hawks is floating prison ships. These hawks were old abandoned merchant ships or warships that were no longer in use and were just anchored in harbors. So a hawk is a ship that is afloat but incapable of going to sea. Hawk may be used to describe a ship that has been launched but not completed and abandoned. So another kind of a hawk is a big person. Person is a big person. So is another kind of hawk is a big persons like the Incredible Hawk who could single-handedly sink the hull of any ship. Hawks were once commonly used as a so convicted offenders were transported to the different islands in Australia, particularly in New South Wales, so Norfolk Islands and Van Diemen's Land, known as the Tasmania. English transportation of criminals officially ended in 1867, in the year of 1867. So, let's go to the development of prisons in the United States of America. Pennsylvania. As a colony of England in the 17th century, America used the Bloody Code of England, as well as its system of punishment. So, today, the state is famous for its industrial and agricultural outputs. Pennsylvania has been one of the nation's most important industrial center for coal, steel, and railroads, especially before the World War II. So, William Penn. William Penn is the founder of the Quaker colony. In 1682, he founded the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and became its governor. So, William Penn University is a private university on Oskaloosa. So, it was founded by members of the Religious Society of Friends in 1873 as Penn College. In 1933, the name was changed in William Penn College. And finally, welcome Penn University in 2000. So, he also made an imprisonment and hard to labor the punishments for most crimes and reserved corporal punishments for murders only. That's what William Penn made. So, penitentiary is the earliest form of large-scale incarceration. It was a place to reform the offenders through repentance and rehabilitation. So, the penitentiary is a prison for people convicted of serious crime. That's what we call penitentiary. So, it is also a state of federal prisons for the punishments and information of convicted felons. So, compares the House of Corrections, House of Detentions, jail, or locked up. So why the question is why is the penitentiary is came from the Latin penitentia, meaning repentance. So we can so if we commit crime, we should repent it. So New York. Thomas Eddy, a penal reformer in New York, he replayed the criminal code of the England, abolished capital punishment for the almost of all offenses except murder and treason, stopped the use of corporal punishment and instead built prisons for offenders. So Thomas Eddy is one of the New York City's leading financiers, who leads some of the most innovative philanthropic efforts of the early 19th century. He only abolished capital punishment for almost all offenses except the murder. So Thomas Eddy also stopped the use of corporal punishments and instead built up prisons for offenders only. So Newgate Prison, established in Greenwich Village, New York in 1797, but it proved to be unsuccessful because it was too small for the growing number of offenders being in prison. So thus today I think the Newgate prisons now is not existent because but although the Newgate prisons has long gone, the Newgate execution bell still exists, and housed in the Church of Saint Sepulchre. So the king often used Newgate prison as a holding place for heretics, traitors, and rebellious subjects brought to London for trial. So this is the place where the person brought for trial. So Auburn Prison. So the second state prison erected in 1816 at Auburn, and it was so famous that it became a model in the United States. Years later, it was renamed Auburn Correctional Facility. Auburn Prison was designed by architect John Cray. So the Auburn Prison, also known as the New York System and Congregated System, is a penal method of the 19th century in which persons work during the day in groups or keep in solitary confinement at night with enforced silence at all times. So the Auburn prisons, Auburn prisons and Pennsylvania is different, guys. So let's proceed to the Walnut Street Jail. So Walnut Street Jail is regarded as the first jail in America. It was built in 1776 and was located in Philadelphia. So the jail was designed to hold groups of inmates in large rooms. It was designed by Robert Smith, a prominent Philadelphia. So as we read, it was located in Philadelphia. So the building was in the typical U-shape, designed to hold large numbers of inmates. There was little regard for their physical well-being and none for their rehabilitation. So This also a the Walnut Street Jail also a hold groups of inmates in large rooms. So the Pennsylvania system. The term Pennsylvania system refers to the prison system and methods devised and used in Pennsylvania prisons beginning in the early 1830s. So the Pennsylvania system was the early prison system requiring inmate silence, individual cells, and inmate labor in the cell. So the Pennsylvania system is explain the penal method based on the principles that solitary confinement foster penitence and encourage reformation. So the Western State Penitentiary and the Eastern State Penitentiary. Western State Penitentiary opened in 1826 in Pittsburgh. However, it was agreed upon and its design. It's decided to just demolish. It was demolished in 1833. So, Eastern State Penitentiary it is the Eastern today the Eastern State Penitentiary was closed, so it was expected that the prisons would be open for only 3 to 5 years. On January 26, 2017, it was announced that SCI Pittsburgh would close by June 30 as a result of state budgets shortfalls and inmate population decrease. So the Western State Penitentiary was closed because of the inmates population's decrease, or the also state of budget shortfalls. It also constructed in Eastern State Penitentiary, Cherry Hill, Philadelphia, finished in 1829, and its design proved to be superior than the Western State. So, as we explained a while ago, it was closed because of the inmate decrease and shortfall state budget shortfalls. So the Auburn prison. Established in New York, which employed the separate system, New York system, congregate system that was made popular by Pennsylvania. So, what is the Auburn? It is also Auburn State Prison, located at Auburn, New York. So, opened in 1816, it established disciplinary and administrative system based on silence. So, the Auburn system also was designed to prevent the corruptions of one prisoner by another. The goal was to totally isolate each prisoner by forcing him. Captain Elam Lanes, the warden of Auburn prisons, introduced the urban silence system, but later abolished what replaced by separate system and became the standard system. So, it was a design to keep So Captain Elam Lenz lead a new prisons model and regime designed to keep convicts separate. New York system or congregate system, similar to the Pennsylvania system in terms of its requiring complete silence for all inmates and at all times where inmates are in solitary confinement at night. During the day, they are required to work in groups or in congregate. So, New York systems are similar to Pennsylvania system. So, just like Pennsylvania systems, there are early prison system requiring the system requiring inmates silence individual cells. So the Elmira Reformatory is an institution that gives emphasis to reformation or rehabilitation of young adults and to segregation of juvenile offenders from adult hardened criminals. So the Elmira Reformatory it is institutional birthplace of the reformatory movement where young and first offenders could work their way up and out of the prison through application and good institutional adjustment. It is also opened in Elmira, New York in 1876 to house youths and aged 16 to 30 years old were first-time offenders. So for those who make a crime that age 16 and 30, they were in prison. They are go to the Elmira Reformatory, which transform prisons from institutions of punishment to places of rehabilitation. So they were rehabilitated there in the Elmira Reformatory. So next is the Bollon-Brock Way. Its first superintendent to devise a system in which prisoners could earn marks or points through hard work and good behavior. So in the Bollon-Brock Way, if you have a good behavior, you earn the points through your hard work. So when a prisoner earned the required marks or points, his grade or level will be upgraded until he reached the grade that will qualify him to be considered for parole. So in the Bollon-Brock Way, when as I said a while ago, that if you earn marks or points through your hard work, when you have a good behavior, they give you a parole, so you can go to your community. So the golden age of penology. The period of 1870 to 1880 is regarded as the golden age of penology. It was during this period that prisons reforms were at their peak, through the efforts of progressive thinking men in Europe and the United States of America. So, the golden age of penology is it is a division of criminology that concerns itself with the philosophy and practice of society in its efforts and repressed criminal activities. That is the concept of golden age of penology in the criminology. So, brief history of corrections in the Philippine setting. Correction in the Philippine setting. It was only during the Spanish occupation that formal structures were established for the purposes of the confining offenders as form of state sanctioned punishment. So, and corrections and the Philippine settings. So the prison system at the national level was supervised by the Bureau of Prisons of the Department of Justice. It is a correctional, it is a correctional system in the Philippines. It is a structure, the corrections in the Philippines setting is the structures or facilities that the term penitentiary is used interchangeable with the words of prison. So, penal farms and penal colony. That's what I discussed a while in the I think I discussed that penal colony in the 5th slides. I think it is a penal colony is a distance or overseas settlement established for punishing criminals by forced labor and isolation from society. So, penal colony is a settlement used to exile prisoners and separate them from the general populace by placing them in a remote location. So, I discussed this also in the I discussed also this in the last slides. That is a settlement established for the punishing criminals by force, labor, isolation from society. So, Spanish colonization. Old beloved prisons. First, penitentiary built pursuant to Section 17 or 8 old administrations. Of the Administrative Code and by virtue of the Royal Decree issued by the Spanish government in 1865. So, in 1940, the prisoners' equipments and facilities were transferred from Old Bellevue to the newer prisons. So, there's have no Bellevue prison now. They make new prisons for which was officially named as New Bellevue prisons. The remnants of the old facilities become the Manila City Jail. So, San Ramon Prisons and Penal Farm, established in Zamboanga City on August 21, 1869. So, this prison was built specifically for Muslim rebels and political prisoners, Spanish government. So, these San Ramon Prisons and Penal Farm are the prisons for the Muslim rebels and the Spanish government. So, it is established in southern Zamboanga City on August 21, 1869 through a royal decree promulgated in 1869 also. So, it was established during the tenure of Governor General Ramon Blanco, whose patron saint the prison was named after. So, it is a province of Zamboanga, the southern tip of the large islands and Mindanao. American occupation. So, Iwahi Prison and Penal Farm, established in Puerto Princesas, Palawan on November 16, 1904, 1904, formerly known as Tohe Penal Settlement. So, Iwahig Prison and Penal Farm in the Puerto Princesa City, Palawan, Philippines is one of the 7 operating units and Bureau of Corrections under the Department of Justice. So, the Iwahig Prison and Penal Farm in Puerto Princesa is known as the prison without walls because even violent convicts here can work and live on these vans like with relative autonomy. So, in the convicts there is they can work and live on this vast land. Bureau of Prison established pursuant to Act Number 1407. So, the Reorganization Act of 1905, approved on November 1, 1904, and 1905 also, it was created the Bureau of Prisons under the Office of the Department of Infirmaries and Police. So, the functions of Bureau of Prisons is, it is in charge with the custody and rehabilitations of the national offenders, that is those sentenced to serve term of imprisonment or more than 3 years. They are custody and rehabilitations of national offenders. Correctional institutions for women, so created pursuant to Act Number 3579 on November 27, 1929. This prison was constructed especially for the confinement of female offenders. So, it is a authorized and the transfer for all women's inmates on the old Bilibid prison in Manila to new facility. So, any correctional institution for women means any police designated. The purpose of this chapter, is the term correctional institutions means any place designated by law for keeping of person held in custody under process of law under lawful arrest. So, they are only processing laws under arrest. So, Davao Penal Colony. The Davao Penal Colony is the second penal colony under American occupation, established in Mindanao. On January 21, 1932, it was created by virtue of Act 3732. So, it is a Davao Prisons and Penal Farm, formerly Davao Penal Colony. So, was established on January 21, 1932 in the Panabo City. So, Davao del Norte, Philippines. It has a land area of 30 hectares with prisons reservation of 8,000. So, next is a Commonwealth Act Number 67. So, provided for the constructions of 4 new national prisons in Muntinlupa in 1935. So, all inmates of the old Bilibid prisons were transferred to what came to be known as the new Bilibid prison. This act number is provide for the national defense of the Philippines. The Act number 65. It is provide for the national defense of the Philippines, penalizing certain violations thereof, appropriating funds therefore and for the other purposes. That's what Commonwealth Act number 67. So post World War II. Sablayan Prison and Penal Farm. So established by virtue of Proclamations number 72 issued on September 26, 1954, located in Occidental Mindoro. So Sablayan Sablayan Prison. So, as of November 2021, and about 526 inmates in Sablayan prisons and penal farm in the Philippines used to be farmers or gardeners. The prison's facility is located in Occidental Mindoro. So, in Sablayan prisons, most of the inmates there are gardeners and farmers. Leyte Regional Prison. So, the first and only national prison in the Visayas, which was established in Leyte pursuant Proclamation number 1101 issued in 1973. So, the Leyte Regional Prison is the biggest correctional facility in the Eastern Visayas, and inaugurated last week. It is ecotourism resort inside the compound and penal facility in this town. That's Leyte Regional Prison. So next is the Philippine prison system. So, Revised Administrative Code, Section 705 to 751. So, it's the basic law on the Philippine prison system, otherwise known as the prison law. So, it is a prison law, the Code Section 705 to 751. Next is Executive Order Number 292 or Administrative Code of 1987. Renamed the Bureau of Prisons into the Bureau of Corrections. So it was renamed by the Bureau of Prisons into the Bureau of Corrections. So this as agency of the government under the Department of Justice, which in charge of the administering the prison and penal farm facilities in the country. Punishment and penalty. So punishment, it is the redress that the state takes against the offending members of society that usually involves in pain and suffering. So it is also the penalty imposed on offender of crime of wrongdoing. So the crime demands punishment. So and the infliction of or impositions of the penalty as retribution for offense. So, punishment, the inflictions of some kind of pain or loss upon a person or means death. Penalty. So, it's suffering that is infected by the state of the transgressions of the law. So, a punishment imposed of breaking law, rule, or contract. It is incurred for violations of law or rule. Justification for punishment. Retribution. Literary retribution is the act of taking revenge in context of corrections. So, from the word retribution, it is a punishment inflicted it is a punishment inflicted on someone's in vengeance for a wrong criminal act. So, the example of retribution is when someone gets the death penalty for committing murder. Expiation. So, related to the philosophy of retaliation is expiation or atonement. Expiation or atonement means reparation for an offense or injury. So, from the word expiation, it is an act of making amends or reparations for guilt of wrongdoing. Atonement. Deterrence. So, literally, deterrence is the act or process of the discouraging actions or preventing occurrences by instilling fear or doubt or anxiety. So, from the word deterrence, guys, it is the actions of discouraging an actions or event through instilling doubt, fear on the consequences. It's act or process of deterring, such as inhibitions of criminal behavior by fear, especially of punishment. The two types of deterrence. So, first is general deterrence. Refers to the preventive effects of the threat of punishment of the general population. So, general deterrence is the law seeks to deter the public from engaging in certain types of conduct. So, deterrence is a method of punishments intended to discourage criminal behavior through the imposition of punishment. So, next is specific deterrence. Refers to the effect of punishments on the further behavior of persons who experience the punishment. So, they are different. The deterrence and specific the general deterrence and specific deterrence, they are different because the specific deterrence is tailored to the individual who committed the crime. General deterrence is intended to make the public at large and would-be criminals think twice about breaking the law. So, next is isolation. Literally means to separate in the context of corrections. Isolation refers to the separation of offenders. So, when a person becomes a threat to the society, he can therefore be isolated or rehabilitated. This is the same for someone who committed a crime or has been overindulged in drugs, wherein the felon needs to be confined to prevent further damage to himself and to other people. Next is incapacitation. It refers to the inability of criminals to victimize people outside prison. So, within the criminal justice system, incarceration is the response used when a person has committed a crime. So, by incapacitating the convicted offender, we prevent the individual from committing future crimes because he is removed from society and locked up or restrained somehow. Next is rehabilitation. It means to restore or return to constructive or health activity. So, from the word rehabilitation, it is the action of restoring someone to health or normal life through training and therapy after imprisonment, addiction, or illness. So that's what we call rehabilitation. It is therapy after the imprisonment, addiction, or illness. Next is the reintegration. So, when we say reintegration, it is the process of making the offender a productive member of the community. So from the word reintegration, so it is the action or process of integrating someone back into society when when he or she give a parole, he integrated to back into society. So the example of the integration is the example of community reintegration is when a person is released from jail and goes to live in a halfway house when he learns how to function as a contributing member of the society. That's all. Thank you.